14-year-old Marcus had been hiding in the basement for 2 weeks when he found the drawings. Maps of the house. Exits marked in red. Today's date circled in black crayon. Then he smelled the gasoline. The second floor exploded into flames, and 8-year-old Lily's screams pierced through the inferno. Marcus could have run, should have run. But the girl who'd been secretly feeding him crackers in the dark was dying. For minutes without oxygen. When he pulled her from the fire, and her father's motorcycle roared up with 500 Hell's Angels behind him, Marcus realized saving her life might have just signed his death warrant. Because someone in that Brotherhood wanted them both dead. Welcome to Hell's Angels family. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because this story will touch your heart in ways you won't expect. To my faithful subscribers who've been here from the beginning, may God continue to bless you abundantly. Before we dive in, let's lift this moment up in prayer. Heavenly Father, I come before you asking for your divine protection over everyone watching right now. Bless their families, Lord. Heal their bodies, provide for their needs, and give them peace that surpasses all understanding. Surround them with your favor, and let your presence be felt in their lives today. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. Now, what you're about to witness isn't just a story about survival. It's about a forgotten 14-year-old homeless boy who risked everything to save an 8-year-old girl from a burning house, only to discover that the 4 minutes of CPR he performed on that frozen lawn would reveal a family he never knew existed, expose traitors hiding in plain sight, and put a target on both their backs that 500 motorcycle brothers would die to protect. The emergency exit window shattered at 11:47 p.m., and 14-year-old Marcus knew he had maybe 3 minutes before someone called the cops. Chicago's November wind bit through his torn jacket as he dropped into the Henderson house basement. His sneakers, 2 sizes too big, stolen from a Goodwill donation bin, hitting concrete with a dull thud. 3 months homeless. 17 abandoned buildings. 23 nights he'd nearly frozen to death. This was the only place left with a working furnace, and tonight the weather report said the temperature would drop to 8 degrees. Cold enough to kill. Marcus had mastered the art of invisibility. Don't speak to anyone. Don't make eye contact. Don't exist loud enough for the world to notice you're still breathing. Since his mother's overdose in August, found blue-faced in a supermarket bathroom with a needle in her arm, the streets had taught him one brutal lesson. The world doesn't save kids like him. It erases them, forgets them, steps over their frozen bodies, and keeps walking. The basement smelled like motor oil, old leather, and something metallic he couldn't identify. Motorcycle parts lined industrial metal shelves along the far wall. Chrome exhaust pipes. Engine blocks wrapped in plastic. Tools hung on pegboards with the kind of military precision that made Marcus's skin crawl. This wasn't just any house. Someone lived here. Someone organized. Someone dangerous. But Marcus was more afraid of freezing than getting caught. He moved through the shadows, cataloging everything. Water heater in the corner. Utility sink with rust stains. A workbench covered in motorcycle manuals and half-assembled carburetors. Boxes stacked against the wall labeled Club Business, Do Not Touch. And in the back corner, behind the furnace where the heat would keep him alive, a space just big enough for a 14-year-old boy to disappear. Marcus curled into that space, pulling his jacket tight. His stomach cramped with hunger, a sensation so constant now it felt like a second heartbeat. 2 days since his last meal. A half-eaten burger from the dumpster behind Lou's Diner on 5th Street. The bread had been moldy, green at the edges, but he'd scraped it off and eaten it anyway because beggars can't afford pride. Above him, footsteps. Marcus's entire body went rigid. Heavy boots crossed the floor directly overhead. A man's voice, rough like gravel scraped over asphalt, echoed through the ceiling. Lily, lights out. Now. A small voice answered. Young. Female. Frightened. But Daddy, I'm scared. Scared of what? The fire dream again. It's getting worse. Silence stretched, so long Marcus thought the conversation had ended. Then the man's voice softened in a way that surprised him, like watching a wolf try to lick a wound without knowing how. Baby girl, that was just a nightmare. Nothing's gonna hurt you here. You're safe. I promise. You promise you won't leave again? Like you left before? The pause felt heavy, loaded with history Marcus couldn't see but could feel pressing down through the floorboards. I'm not going anywhere. Not anymore. Sleep now. Okay, Daddy. I love you. Love you too, kid. The boots walked away. A door closed somewhere upstairs. Then nothing but the mechanical hum of the furnace and Marcus's own heartbeat hammering against his ribs like it was trying to escape his chest. He waited 2 hours before allowing himself to sleep. Even then, his dreams were cold. Day 3. Marcus learned the house's rhythm like a prisoner learns the guard rotation. The man, whoever he was, left every morning at exactly 6:15 a.m. Motorcycle engine roaring to life in the driveway, loud enough to rattle the basement windows. Gone until late afternoon, sometimes later. The girl stayed home during the day. Homeschooled, Marcus guessed. Sometimes he heard her talking to herself, playing with toys. Sometimes crying. Sometimes just silence, which somehow felt worse. He should leave. Find another squat. Another abandoned building. Another place to hide. But the cold outside was killing people. The news, glimpsed through shop windows as he walked past, said 3 homeless deaths last week. Hypothermia. Frostbite. A woman found frozen under the Roosevelt Bridge, ice crystals in her hair. The invisible people nobody mourned. The ones the city swept away like garbage. Marcus stayed invisible in the basement, rationing water from the utility sink, drinking from cupped hands in the dead of night, peeing in empty oil containers he'd dump in the alley when the house went dark, surviving 1 hour at a time because that's all he knew how to do anymore. Then came the screaming. 2:34 a.m. Marcus jolted awake to the sound of a child's terror ripping through the floorboards like claws through paper. No, no, the fire. Please, somebody help me. Don't let me burn. The boots thundered across the floor. A door crashed open. Lily, wake up. Baby, it's just a dream. You're not burning. You're safe. But the screaming didn't stop. It clawed at something deep in Marcus's chest, a memory of his own mother, thrashing in withdrawal, begging for help he was too young to give. Screaming at demons only she could see. He pressed his palms against his ears, squeezed his eyes shut, made himself small, made himself nothing, but he couldn't unhear it. The sound burrowed into his skull and lived there. Day 7. The nightmares came every night, always around 2:30 a.m., always the same themes. Fire, smoke, burning, someone named Uncle Ray who did something terrible. And every night, the man, the father, would hold her until the screaming dissolved into whimpers and finally silence. Marcus found himself listening for it, waiting, worrying about a girl he'd never seen, wondering what kind of nightmare could be that consistent, that specific, that terrifying. During the days, he explored the basement more carefully, found old newspapers in a recycling bin, read about the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club, about territory disputes and bar fights and federal investigations, about a member named Jacob Henderson who'd returned to Chicago after 15 years in Colorado. The pieces clicked together. The leather, the patches, the club business boxes. Marcus was squatting in the house of a Hells Angel. He should run, should disappear into the Chicago streets and never look back. But where would he go? Every other shelter was full. Every other squat was either too cold or too dangerous. And something about Lily's screams kept him frozen in place, unable to leave. On the 8th night, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. While scavenging through the alley behind Riverside Grove Elementary, digging through donation boxes left outside the community center, Marcus found a teddy bear. Brown, missing one eye, stitching coming loose at the seams. But soft, clean enough. The kind of thing a kid might hold on to in the dark. He thought about Lily's screams, about the fear in her voice when she called for help that never came fast enough, about being 8 years old and terrified of shadows and fire and things adults couldn't see. At 3 a.m., while the house breathed with sleep, Marcus crept upstairs for the first time. His hands shook as he climbed the basement stairs. Every creak of wood felt like a gunshot. Every shadow looked like someone waiting to catch him. The house was different up here. Lived in, warm, filled with the small details of normal life he'd almost forgotten existed. Photographs on the walls showed groups of men in leather vests, arms around each other, faces hard but smiling. A living room with a couch covered in motorcycle magazines. A kitchen with a child's drawing stuck to the refrigerator with magnets. He found her door at the end of the hallway. Pink paint, slightly chipped. A hand-drawn sign in crayon. Lily's room. No boys allowed, except Daddy. Marcus set the teddy bear gently against the door, turned to leave, and froze. Lily stood in the doorway, 8 years old, small and pale in unicorn pajamas, dark circles under eyes too old for her face, staring at him with the kind of fear that could shatter glass or stop hearts. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't move. His entire body went cold. If she screamed, he was finished. Arrested, thrown into juvenile detention, or worse, dead on the streets by December. But Lily didn't scream. She looked at the teddy bear, then at Marcus, then back at the bear. Her expression shifted, from fear to confusion to something else. Curiosity, maybe, or recognition of something familiar in his eyes. The look of someone who knew what it meant to be scared and alone. "Is that for me?" she whispered. Marcus nodded. His voice had abandoned him completely. "Thank you," Lily said quietly. She picked up the bear and hugged it to her chest. "What's your name?" "Marcus." The word came out barely louder than a breath. "I'm Lily. Do you live in our basement?" He should lie, should make up a story, should run. But something in her eyes, the same deep loneliness he saw every time he caught his reflection in a store window, made him tell the truth. "Yes." Lily tilted her head, processing this information with the strange, flexible logic of children. "Are you a ghost? I thought I heard someone downstairs sometimes, but Daddy said it was just the furnace." "No, just homeless." The word hung between them. Lily's expression softened. "My daddy says homeless people need help, that people forget about them but shouldn't." "Are you hungry?" Marcus's stomach answered with a growl loud enough to make Lily's eyes widen. "Wait here," she whispered urgently. She disappeared into her room and returned 30 seconds later with a juice box, a sleeve of crackers, and a granola bar. "I'm not supposed to have snacks after bedtime, but you look like you need them way more than me." Marcus took them with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. "Thank you. You don't have to." "I know," Lily interrupted. "But I want to. Nobody should be hungry." She hugged her new teddy bear tighter. "Don't tell my daddy you're here, okay? He gets really mad about strangers in our house. He's in a motorcycle club, the Hells Angels. They're really, really tough. He carries a gun." Ice flooded Marcus's veins. "A gun? Of course there was a gun." "I won't tell anyone," Marcus whispered. "I promise." "Good." Lily smiled for the first time. Small, tentative, but real. "I like having a friend. Even a secret ghost friend who's not really a ghost." She went back to bed, closing her door softly. Left Marcus standing in the dark hallway, holding crackers and a juice box and a granola bar, realizing he'd just made the most dangerous friend of his entire life. Day 14. They built a secret language out of necessity and kindness. Every night, Lily would leave food outside her door. Crackers, granola bars, half sandwiches wrapped in napkins, apple slices in plastic bags. Once, an entire slice of cold pizza that tasted like heaven. Marcus would leave small treasures he found during his daytime scavenging. A flower from Grant Park that hadn't quite died yet, a smooth stone from the Chicago River shoreline, a comic book someone had left on a bus stop bench. 2 broken kids helping each other survive in silence, building a friendship neither of them had words for. Marcus learned things during those 2 weeks. Learned that Lily's mother had died 6 months ago in a hospital in Denver. That her father, Reaper, everyone called him, a nickname that made Marcus's skin crawl, had only just found out Lily existed. That he was trying his best to be a parent despite having no idea how. Learning to braid hair from YouTube videos. Making school lunches with too much peanut butter and not enough jelly. Reading bedtime stories in a voice that didn't quite know how to be gentle, but was trying so hard. Marcus also learned that Reaper's club brothers came by often. Too often. Their voices carried through the walls during late-night meetings in the living room. Loud. Angry. Using words that made Marcus press closer to the wall to hear better. Liability. Weakness. "The girl's gonna get you killed, Reaper. She's making you soft. Soft gets brothers buried." One night, Marcus heard something that made his blood freeze solid in his veins. A voice he didn't recognize, harder than the others. "Reaper, you're compromised. The club can't have compromised leadership. Either the girl goes, or you do. Simple math. You threatening my daughter?" Reaper's voice dropped to something deadly. "Because if you're threatening my daughter, we're going to have a very different conversation. One that ends with me burying every single one of you in the Indiana cornfields." That's real cute. Real tough dad energy. But you can't watch her 24/7. Accidents happen. House fires. Car crashes. Kids disappear. The threat hung in the air like smoke. "Get out of my house." "We're just saying. Get out." The conversation ended with a door slamming hard enough to shake the walls and motorcycles roaring away into the November night. Engines screaming fury. Marcus didn't sleep that night. Neither did Lily. He heard her crying softly until sunrise. Subscribe now, because what happens next will haunt you. November 18th, 4:47 p.m. Marcus had made his decision. He was leaving tonight. The tension in the house had become suffocating, oppressive, dangerous. Like breathing in smoke before you see the flames. He didn't want to be there when things exploded, and they were going to explode. He'd lived through enough violence to recognize the warning signs. The way Reaper had started checking window locks obsessively. The gun that appeared on the kitchen counter every morning. The club members who drove by slowly at random hours, watching the house. Marcus was packing his few belongings, a spare shirt, the comic book Lily had given him, a photograph of his mother he'd salvaged from their old apartment, when he heard something strange. The furnace kicked on with its usual mechanical groan, but this time something rattled in the ductwork. Something that didn't belong. Something metal scraping against metal. Curiosity overrode caution. Marcus dragged a wooden crate beneath the heating vent, climbed up, and reached inside. His fingers closed around a stack of papers. Thick, textured, drawing paper. He pulled them out, and his heart stopped beating. Lily's drawings. At least 20 of them, hidden in the ductwork where no adult would ever look. But these weren't the cheerful crayon pictures stuck to the refrigerator upstairs. These were different, darker, terrifying in their specificity. They were maps. Detailed architectural sketches of the house layout drawn with the careful precision of someone who'd studied every inch. Every room labeled in shaky handwriting. Every window marked. Every door numbered. Every exit circled with red X's. And in the corner of each drawing, a date circled over and over in black crayon until the paper had torn. November 18th. Today's date. Marcus's hands started shaking so hard, he almost dropped the stack. He flipped through the pages faster, his breath coming in short gasps. More drawings. Flames rendered in orange and red and yellow, consuming stick figure houses. Smoke drawn in thick black spirals. Stick figures running, falling, burning. And one drawing that made Marcus's blood turn to ice water in his veins. A detailed sketch of a man in a leather vest. The Hell's Angels patch clearly visible. Pouring liquid from a container around the outside of a house, while a small stick figure watched from an upstairs window. The figure in the window had Lily's name written above it in desperate letters. These weren't nightmares. These were premonitions. Warnings. Evidence. Lily had been trying to tell someone what was coming. Trying to leave clues for whoever might find them. Maybe she'd even been trying to leave them for Marcus. Comment below where you're watching from. You'll need witnesses for what comes next. Marcus's mind raced, fragments of overheard conversations suddenly clicking together like puzzle pieces forming a terrible picture. The threats. The accidents happen. House fires. The club members who want a Reaper gone. The deadline that had been hanging over this house like an executioner's blade. That's when he smelled it. Gasoline. Faint at first, almost masked by the motor oil smell that permeated the basement. But unmistakable once he recognized it. Sharp. Chemical. Wrong. Seeping through the floorboards from somewhere upstairs, spreading, pooling. Marcus dropped the drawings. They scattered across the concrete floor like fallen leaves, Lily's desperate warnings lying useless at his feet. He ran for the stairs, taking them 3 at a time. His feet hit the main floor just as he heard it. The soft whoosh of ignition, like someone lighting a gas stove, but much, much louder. The second floor exploded into flames. Fire raced across the ceiling with impossible speed, feeding on accelerant trails Marcus couldn't see, but could smell everywhere now. Smoke poured down the stairwell in thick black clouds. Heat slammed into him like a physical force, making his skin prickle and his eyes water instantly. And somewhere in the inferno above, cutting through the roar of flames and the crash of something collapsing, Lily started screaming. "Marcus! Marcus, help me! I can't get out. Please!" She was calling for him. Not her father. Not 911. Him. The homeless boy in her basement. The secret friend she'd been feeding crackers. Marcus looked at the basement door behind him. 3 steps, and he'd be outside. Safe. Invisible again. He could disappear into Chicago, and no one would ever know he'd been here. He looked at the burning staircase leading to the second floor where an 8-year-old girl was screaming his name. And Marcus made the choice that would change everything. He covered his face with his jacket and ran straight into the fire. The staircase was a tunnel of flame. Marcus took the steps 2 at a time, his jacket pressed against his mouth and nose, eyes streaming tears that evaporated instantly in the heat. The wallpaper peeled away in burning strips, falling like toxic snow. The smoke was thick, black, suffocating, the kind that killed you before the flames ever touched your skin. "Lily, where are you?" "My room. I can't open the door." Her voice came from the left. Marcus crashed through the smoke, his lungs screaming for clean air they wouldn't find. The upstairs hallway was an inferno. Flames crawled across the ceiling like living things, feeding on something that made them burn hotter, faster, hungrier than any natural fire should. He found her door. The pink paint was already blistering, bubbling under the heat. The handle burned his palm when he grabbed it, but he held on anyway, twisting hard. Locked from the outside. Someone had locked Lily in her room. This wasn't an accident. This was murder. Marcus slammed his shoulder into the door once, twice, 3 times. The wood cracked, but held. Behind him, part of the ceiling collapsed in a shower of sparks and burning timber. He had seconds, maybe less. Move away from the door. He kicked it with everything he had. The frame splintered. One more kick and the door burst inward. Lily was on the floor by her window, unconscious. Smoke inhalation. Her small body wasn't moving, wasn't breathing. The unicorn pajamas Marcus had seen her wear for 2 weeks were covered in soot. He scooped her up, so light it terrified him, like holding a bird with hollow bones, and turned back toward the stairs. But the fire had spread. The hallway was completely engulfed now. The main staircase had collapsed into a pile of burning rubble. No way out that direction. Marcus ran to the window instead, cradling Lily against his chest. The glass was hot enough to hurt through his jacket. He wrapped his fist in fabric and punched through, safety glass spiderwebbing and falling away in chunks. Cold November air rushed in, feeding the fire behind him, making it roar louder. Marcus looked down. Second story. 15-foot drop onto frozen grass. He could survive that. But Lily in his arms, unconscious and fragile? He didn't have a choice. Marcus climbed onto the windowsill, held Lily tight, and jumped. The impact drove the air from his lungs. His ankle screamed in pain, something twisting wrong on landing. But he rolled, protecting Lily's body with his own, and came up on the front lawn gasping and coughing and alive. Lily wasn't breathing. Marcus laid her flat on the grass, his hands shaking so hard he could barely control them. For minutes. That's how long she'd been without oxygen. For minutes since he'd heard her screaming from the basement. For minutes of brain-killing, life-stealing time. He tilted her head back like he'd seen in a school assembly years ago. Checked her airway. Started chest compressions on her tiny chest, counting desperately. "Come on, Lily. Come on. Don't leave. Please don't leave." 30 compressions. 2 rescue breaths. Her lips were blue. Her chest wasn't rising. Subscribe now. You need to see if she survives this. 30 more compressions. Marcus's burned hands left bloody prints on her pajama top. Sweat and ash dripped into his eyes. Around him, neighbors were emerging from houses, phones out, filming everything. Red and blue lights flashed in the distance. Sirens wailing closer. "Come on, Lily." 2 more breaths. Her chest rose slightly. Was that him forcing air in, Or was she breathing? 30 compressions. Harder this time. Faster. His training was street knowledge and desperation, not medical school. He might be breaking her ribs. He might be doing everything wrong. But doing nothing meant watching her die on frozen grass while her house burned behind them. Another breath. Another. Please. Please. I can't lose you too. Then Lily coughed. Water and bile erupted from her mouth. Her body convulsed. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused, terrified, but open. Alive. Marcus. Her voice was barely a whisper, raw and damaged. I'm here. You're okay. You're safe. My daddy. We'll find him. Just breathe. Keep breathing. The crowd of neighbors had grown. 20 people. 30. All filming. All witnessing. Marcus heard fragments of their conversations. Homeless kid just saved her. Went into the fire. Did you see that? He did CPR. Someone needs to call her father. Videos already going viral. Then came the sound that made Marcus's blood freeze. Motorcycles. Not one or two. Dozens. Hundreds. The thunder of engines roaring from every direction, converging on this house like a steel stampede. The ground literally vibrated with the sound. The crowd scattered as motorcycles poured onto the street. 10, 20, 50. More kept coming, filling every available space. Riders in leather vests dismounting in synchronized fury. The patches on their backs all identical. Hell's Angels. Chicago chapter. 500 bikers. Marcus's panicked brain counted. Maybe more. All converging on this burning house. All here for a single motorcycle cut through the crowd. Bigger than the others. Louder. The rider was massive, 6'4" of leather and muscle and barely controlled rage. He pulled off his helmet, and Marcus recognized him from the photographs inside. Reaper. Lily's father. The man whose house Marcus had been squatting in for 2 weeks. The man whose daughter was lying on the grass in Marcus's arms, covered in soot and coughing up smoke. Reaper's eyes found Lily first. Something broke in his expression, fear so raw it looked like physical pain. Then his eyes found Marcus, a 14-year-old homeless kid holding his daughter, a stranger who shouldn't exist, who shouldn't be here. Reaper's hand moved to his waistband, to the gun Marcus knew would be there. Who the hell are you? Reaper's voice was deadly quiet, somehow cutting through the roar of idling motorcycles and crackling flames. And why were you in my house? 500 bikers closed in around them, a circle of leather and steel and judgment. Marcus was trapped, surrounded, holding the only thing keeping him alive, the 8-year-old girl who'd fed him crackers in the dark. Marcus's voice broke. I was in your basement. I'm homeless. I was just looking for somewhere warm. My basement. Reaper took a step closer. The bikers tightened their circle. For how long? 2 weeks. The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, 2 weeks, like it was a confession of murder. 2 weeks you were hiding in my house. 2 weeks near my daughter. Reaper's jaw clenched. Give me one reason I shouldn't put a bullet in you right now. Daddy, no. Lily's voice was weak, but desperate. She clutched at Marcus's jacket. He saved me. He came into the fire. Everyone else just watched, but Marcus came. Marcus. Reaper tested the name like poison. That true? You went in there. Marcus nodded, unable to speak. Why? Because she was screaming my name. The admission hung in the air. Lily had known Marcus existed, had been close enough to call for him. The implications crashed over Reaper's face like cold water. His daughter had been in danger for 2 weeks, and he hadn't known. Had been building a secret friendship with a homeless kid, and he hadn't noticed. Like this video, every second someone watching decides Marcus's fate. One of the bikers stepped forward, phone out. Reaper, you need to see this. He handed over the phone. On the screen, shaky video footage showed Marcus jumping from the second-story window with Lily in his arms. Showed him doing CPR with bloody, burned hands. Showed him begging her to breathe. The timestamp said the video had been uploaded 4 minutes ago. It already had 50,000 views. Reaper watched it twice. His expression was unreadable. The fire was set. Another biker called out, pointing at the house. I can smell the accelerant from here. This was arson. Someone tried to kill your kid, brother. The crowd erupted, voices shouting over each other, accusations flying. But Marcus's attention was locked on Reaper, whose eyes had gone cold and calculating and infinitely dangerous. "Who said it?" Reaper asked quietly, looking at Marcus. "Did you see? I saw someone running from the back door right when it started. Leather vest. Your patch." The crowd went silent. Deadly silent. "One of ours?" Reaper's voice dropped to something sub-zero. "You're saying one of my brothers tried to burn my daughter alive. I don't know who it was. Just that he was wearing your colors." Reaper turned to the assembled bikers. 500 men. 500 suspects. One traitor hidden among them who just tried to commit murder and frame it as an accident. "Listen up." Reaper's voice cut through everything. "Someone in this club just tried to kill my 8-year-old daughter. Someone locked her in that room and lit this house on fire. And I'm going to find out who." The sirens were close now. Fire trucks rounding the corner. Police cars right behind. The video on social media was blowing up. Marcus could see people in the crowd refreshing their phones, watching the view count climb. 1 million. 2 million. This was going viral in real time. Reaper pulled another biker close. Whispered something urgent. The man nodded and melted back into the crowd. Then Reaper turned back to Marcus. "You're coming with us." "What? What?" "Because you're the only witness. Because my daughter trusts you. And because if someone in my club wants her dead," Reaper's eyes swept across the assembled bikers, "then someone in my club might want to eliminate witnesses." Two massive bikers moved to flank Marcus. Not touching him. Not threatening. But not giving him a choice either. "This protection or prison?" Marcus asked. "Depends," Reaper said. "On whether you're telling me everything." Marcus met his eyes. "I'm telling you everything. Then we'll find out together who tried to murder my daughter." Reaper leaned closer, his voice dropping so only Marcus could hear. "But understand this, kid. If I find out you had anything to do with this fire, I'll make sure they never find your body." The police cars pulled up. Officers jumping out. EMTs rushing toward Lily with a stretcher. News vans arriving. Cameras everywhere. The story was already national news. Homeless boy saves biker's daughter from house fire. But Marcus barely noticed any of it. Because as the EMTs loaded Lily into the ambulance, one of the bikers standing in the back of the crowd caught Marcus's eye. The man's vest was damp at the hem. His hands were clean, too clean for someone who'd been working on motorcycles all day. And when he saw Marcus looking, something flickered across his face. Fear, recognition, guilt. Then the man turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd of leather-clad suspects before Marcus could say a word. Before Marcus could point him out. Before anyone else noticed. The traitor was still here. Still watching. And now he knew that Marcus had seen his face. The Hells Angels clubhouse sat on the outskirts of Riverside Grove, hidden behind a chain-link fence and enough razor wire to fortify a prison. Marcus had never been more terrified in his life. 20 motorcycles escorted him there, a convoy of steel and leather moving through Chicago streets like a military operation. Reaper rode up front. Marcus sat in the back of a truck driven by a biker named Axe, who hadn't spoken a single word during the 15-minute drive. Just kept his eyes on the road and his hand near something under his jacket that Marcus desperately hoped wasn't a gun. They'd left Lily at Northwestern Memorial Hospital with half a dozen club members standing guard outside her room. The doctors said she'd survive. Smoke inhalation. Minor burns. Trauma that would take years to process. But alive. Breathing on her own. Calling for Marcus even as they sedated her. Now Marcus sat in a metal folding chair in the center of the clubhouse's main room, surrounded by 40 bikers who looked at him like he was either a hero or a threat. Maybe both. The room smelled like cigarette smoke, motor oil, and barely controlled violence. Reaper stood directly in front of him, arms crossed. Behind him, a wall covered in photographs, club members, bikes, runs to rallies across the country. A family Marcus didn't belong to. A brotherhood built on loyalty he'd never understand. "Start from the beginning," Reaper said. His voice was calmer now, but that somehow made it worse. Like the stillness before a tornado. Every detail. "Why were you in my house?" Marcus's mouth was dry. His burned hands throbbed. His ankle, probably sprained from the jump, sent jolts of pain up his leg every time he shifted weight. But he told the truth. All of it. The cold. The desperation. breaking into the basement, hearing Lily's nightmares. The teddy bear, the secret friendship, the food she'd left him, the drawings he'd found in the heating vent, the smell of gasoline, the choice to run into the fire instead of away. The bikers listened in absolute silence. Some expressions softened, others hardened with suspicion. When Marcus finished, Reaper stared at him for what felt like an eternity. "So my daughter," Reaper said slowly, "has been feeding a homeless stranger for 2 weeks. A stranger I didn't know existed. Living in my house without my knowledge." "Yes, sir. And you expect me to believe you had nothing to do with that fire?" "I'm telling the truth. Truth is flexible, kid. I've heard 1,000 lies from people swearing on their mother's graves." "My mother's dead," Marcus said quietly. "Overdosed in August. I don't have anyone left to swear on." Something flickered in Reaper's expression. Not quite sympathy. Maybe recognition. "What was her name?" "Why does that matter?" "Answer the question." Marcus flinched. "Catherine. Catherine. I don't know if she ever told me her real last name. She used different names. Different IDs. We moved a lot." One of the bikers in the back, older, gray beard, eyes that had seen too much, stepped forward. "Catherine. Brunette. Tattoo of a phoenix on her shoulder blade." Marcus's blood went cold. "How do you know that?" The old biker looked at Reaper with an expression Marcus couldn't read. "Boss, we need to talk. Private." "No." Reaper's jaw clenched. "Whatever you're going to say it here. In front of everyone. We don't have secrets when someone tried to kill my daughter." The old biker hesitated, then pulled out his phone, scrolled through photos, stopped on one, and turned the screen toward Marcus. "This her?" Marcus's breath caught. The photograph showed a woman, maybe 15 years younger, healthier, smiling. But it was her, his mother, standing next to a younger version of Reaper, both of them on motorcycles, her arms wrapped around his waist. "Where did you get that?" Marcus whispered. Reaper took the phone, stared at the photo. The color drained from his face. "That's not possible. Catherine left Chicago 16 years ago. Said she was pregnant, but didn't want club life. I gave her money. Told her to call if she needed anything. She never did." "Pregnant," the old biker repeated carefully. "With your kid." The room erupted, voices shouting over each other. Marcus couldn't process what he was hearing. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Reaper looked at Marcus like seeing him for the first time. Really seeing him. Calculating ages. Doing math that didn't require a calculator. "How old are you?" 14. "When's your birthday?" "March 7th. Reaper closed his eyes. "Jesus. March 7th. Catherine called me in June, 15 years ago. Said she'd had the baby. A boy. Said she was clean and handling it. I offered money. Support. She refused. Said she didn't want the club life touching her kid. I respected that. Sent money anyway through a third party. Until 4 years ago when the money started getting returned. I thought she'd gotten stable. Gotten out. She didn't," Marcus said bitterly. "She got worse. Pills. Then needles. We lived in motels. Cars. Shelters. She'd disappear for days. I learned to steal food. Learned to lie to social workers. Learned to be invisible so they wouldn't put me in foster care. Subscribe now. This family reunion is about to explode." Reaper sank into a chair like his legs wouldn't hold him anymore. "You're telling me I have a son. A 14-year-old son who's been homeless for months, and I didn't know. Didn't help. Didn't." "You didn't know because she didn't tell you," Marcus interrupted. "She barely told me. I didn't even know my father's name until 2 minutes ago." The room had gone silent again. Every biker staring, witnessing, processing the impossible. Their president had just discovered a son who'd saved his daughter's life. Another biker burst through the door, phone in hand. "Boss, the video's at 10 million views. National news. CNN. Fox. Everyone's running with it. Homeless hero saves biker's daughter. They're calling Marcus a guardian angel." "Guardian angel," someone muttered. "Kid's literally Reaper's blood." Reaper stood abruptly. "DNA test. We do this properly. No assumptions. But if..." He looked at Marcus, and something in his eyes was different now. Softer. Desperate. "If you're really my son, then everything changes." "Everything. Changes how?" Marcus asked. "Because then this wasn't just an attack on Lily. This was an attack on my entire family. And whoever did it knew." Knew about you. Knew about the connection. This wasn't random arson. This was calculated. The old biker with the gray beard pulled up security footage on a laptop. We've been reviewing cameras from businesses near your house. Got something from the convenience store across the street. He turned the screen around. Grainy footage showed a figure in a Hells Angels vest approaching Reaper's house at 4:32 p.m., 15 minutes before the fire. The person moved deliberately, carrying something. A container. They disappeared around the back of the house. Can you enhance the image? Reaper demanded. Already did. Can't see the face. But look at this. The old biker zoomed in on the vest. That patch on the right side. That's a road captain patch. Only 12 brothers in our chapter have that designation. 12 suspects. Out of 500. Reaper's expression went arctic. Give me the names. Give me their locations for the last 6 hours. Give me everything. Already on it, boss. Marcus watched all of this unfold with growing dread. The truth was surfacing piece by piece. His mother's hidden past. His father's identity. The target on Lily's back that might have extended to him. All the secrets coming into the light at once. His phone. A cracked, barely functional thing he'd shoplifted months ago, buzzed in his pocket. A message from an unknown number. You saw my face. That was a mistake. If you tell Reaper, your little sister dies next. Stay quiet, or she burns. Marcus's hands started shaking. The traitor had his number. Had been watching close enough to get his contact information. Was threatening Lily's life if Marcus talked. But Marcus had already told Reaper he'd seen someone. Hadn't given details. Hadn't pointed out the man in the crowd. But the traitor didn't know that. The traitor thought Marcus could identify him. Like this if you'd stay silent to save her. Marcus. Reaper's voice cut through his panic. You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost. Marcus gripped his phone tighter. Every instinct screamed to show Reaper the message. To ask for help. To let the Brotherhood handle it. But the message was clear. She burns. If Marcus talked, Lily died. If he stayed quiet, the traitor walked free. And if the DNA test confirmed what everyone suspected, that Marcus was Reaper's son, Lily's half-brother, then Marcus carried the weight of both their lives. The door burst open. A young biker, out of breath. Boss, it's the hospital. Lily's room. Someone tried to get past security. One of our guys. He had a syringe. Said he was bringing her medicine, but the nurses didn't authorize it. We detained him, but who? Reaper's voice was deadly. It was Torch. Your road captain. The one who recruited 15 brothers last year. 12 suspects. Now 11. Or was this another distraction? Another layer to the conspiracy? Marcus looked down at his phone. At the threat. At the impossible choice. The biker continued. Torch says he didn't do anything wrong. Says Marcus put the idea in your head. Says the kid's running a con. Playing you. That he probably started the fire himself and staged the rescue to get into the club. Every eye in the room turned to Marcus. And in that moment, sitting in a room full of men who could kill him and make his body disappear, Marcus realized the truth. He wasn't being protected here. He was being interrogated. And someone in this room was waiting for the perfect moment to make sure he never left alive. I didn't stage anything, Marcus said, his voice shaking. I saved her. That's all I did. Torch stepped into the clubhouse, flanked by 2 other road captains. He was mid-40s, heavily tattooed, with the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. That's what someone running a con would say. Think about it, Reaper. Kid appears out of nowhere, conveniently in your house for weeks without anyone knowing. Then magically he's the hero when a fire starts? That's textbook manipulation. The video doesn't lie. The old biker with the gray beard countered. We all saw him jump from that window. Saw him do CPR. Those burns on his hands are real. Burns are easy to fake, Torch said smoothly. Self-inflicted injuries to sell the story. Classic grift. He gets himself hurt just enough to look believable, saves the girl, suddenly he's family. Next thing you know, he's asking for money. For a place to stay. For club protection. It's a long con. Marcus's phone burned in his pocket. The threat still glowing on the screen. Stay quiet, or she burns. But Torch's accusation was forcing his hand. If Marcus stayed silent to protect Lily, everyone would believe Torch. Would believe Marcus was a con artist. would throw him back onto the streets or worse. But if he revealed what he knew, if he pointed out the man he'd seen fleeing the fire, the traitor might make good on his threat. Reaper stood between them, his expression unreadable. The DNA test will prove paternity. Until then, Marcus stays here under watch. Under watch or under suspicion? Torch challenged. Because I'm telling you, brother, this kid's playing you. And when you figure it out, it'll be too late. He'll have wormed his way into your life, into Lily's life. And when he robs you blind, don't say, I didn't warn you. Torch. Reaper's voice dropped to something dangerous. Explain why you were at the hospital with an unauthorized syringe. I wasn't unauthorized. I was bringing Lily her medication. The nurse made a mistake. The nurse says no medication was ordered. Then the doctor screwed up the paperwork. I was trying to help. Torch spread his hands innocently. But sure, make me the villain because I'm asking logical questions about a homeless kid nobody's ever heard of. The room divided. Marcus could see it happening in real time. Some bikers nodding along with Torch's logic. Others looking skeptical, remembering the video footage. The Brotherhood fracturing along fault lines of trust and suspicion. There's another explanation, Marcus said quietly. Every eye turned to him. What if someone wanted Lily dead because of what she represents? Reaper's vulnerability. His weakness, like everyone keeps saying. But what if there's more? What if whoever set that fire knew about me too? Knew I was in the basement? Knew the connection? What connection? Torch scoffed. You're a random street kid. My mother was Catherine, Marcus said louder now. Catherine who left Chicago 16 years ago pregnant with Reaper's child. Catherine who kept me away from club life until she died. Catherine who, his voice cracked, who maybe died because someone wanted to make sure I stayed lost. The room went deadly silent. Reaper's face transformed. Grief and rage and realization crashing together. When did your mother die? August 19th. They said it was an overdose. But she'd been clean for 3 months. She was doing better. And then one day she wasn't. The old biker pulled up something on his laptop. August 19th. That's the same day Torch was in Chicago. Said he was visiting family. I was visiting family. Torch snapped. My sister lives in Lincoln Park. Your sister moved to Phoenix 2 years ago, another biker said slowly. I helped her load the moving truck. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. Torch's expression shifted. Just for a second. A flicker of something cold and calculated before the innocent mask slammed back down. You people are insane. You're really going to believe some homeless kid over a brother who's been with this club for 12 years? Show us your phone, Reaper said. Excuse me. Your phone. Show us your call history. Text messages. Prove you weren't near that house today. Subscribe now. The truth is about to destroy everything. Torch laughed, but it sounded wrong. Forced. This is ridiculous. I'm not showing you anything. I have rights. Club bylaws say. Club bylaws say when a brother's family is threatened, all protections are suspended pending investigation. The old biker interrupted. Show us the phone, Torch, or refuse and confirm everyone's suspicions. Torch's hand moved toward his waistband. 3 bikers drew guns faster than Marcus could blink. The room erupted in shouting. Chairs scraping. Bodies moving. Marcus dove behind a table as Torch pulled his weapon. Not aiming at the bikers, but at Marcus. Nobody moved. Torch's voice was different now. No more smooth manipulation. Just raw desperation. This kid ruins everything. Everything. Reaper was supposed to be broken after the fire. Supposed to step down. I was supposed to take over. But this little rat had to play hero. Reaper's voice was ice. You killed Catherine. You tried to kill my daughter. You tried to kill my son. Your son was never supposed to exist. Torch screamed. Catherine promised she'd stay away. Promised she'd never come back. But she started asking questions. Started sniffing around. Wanted to know if you'd moved on. If you had other kids. She was going to expose everything. Expose what? That Lily isn't your only child. Torch's facade shattered completely. Catherine contacted me. Said she needed money. Said her son was sick and she needed help. She remembered me from the old days. Thought I'd help. Instead, I made sure she never talked. Gave her a hot dose. Made it look like a relapse. Marcus couldn't breathe. His mother had been murdered. had been trying to get help, and it had killed her. And Lily. Reaper's voice shook with barely controlled fury. Lily was the plan from the start. Kill her. Break you. Take over the club. Simple. But I didn't know about the kid in your basement. Didn't know Marcus existed until he jumped out that damn window. The guns didn't waver. Torch was surrounded, trapped, confessing to everything. But his gun was still pointed at Marcus's head. Here's what's going to happen, Torch said, backing toward the door. I'm walking out of here. And if anyone tries to stop me, I put a bullet in this kid's brain. Then I disappear. Mexico, Canada, doesn't matter. You'll never find me. You won't make it to the door, Reaper said. Try me. The standoff stretched. 40 armed bikers. 1 traitor. 1 hostage. Marcus could see the calculations happening behind Reaper's eyes. The impossible math of saving your son versus letting a murderer escape. Then Marcus's phone buzzed again. Everyone heard it in the silence. The notification chime. Torch's eyes narrowed. Who's texting you, kid? Marcus didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Check it, Torch demanded. Right now? Show everyone. With shaking hands, Marcus pulled out his phone. The new message glowed on the cracked screen, visible to everyone close enough to see. Torch isn't working alone. I am. And I'm already at the hospital with Lily. Clock's ticking, little brother. The message was from an unknown number, but attached was a photo that made Marcus's blood turn to ice. Lily's hospital room. Lily asleep in her bed. And standing over her, wearing a visitor's badge and a Hells Angels vest, was the old biker with the gray beard. The one who'd been helping them all along. The one who'd shown them the security footage. The one who'd backed Marcus's story. The one who'd been playing both sides from the beginning. Like this video, Lily has minutes left. Reaper saw the photo. His face went white. Phoenix. No, not you. The old biker, Phoenix, smiled sadly through the phone's image. In real time, the Phoenix standing in the clubhouse pulled his own phone out, showing a live stream of Lily's hospital room. Showing himself standing over her sleeping body in the video feed. I'm not actually there, Phoenix said calmly, setting his phone on the table. That photo was taken an hour ago. But my partner is there right now. And if Torch doesn't walk out of this room free and clear, Lily gets the same medicine her mother did. Hot dose. Straight into her 4. Painless. Quick. Tragic. You son of a. I'm the one who raised you, Reaper. Taught you everything. Made you president. And you got soft. First Catherine made you weak. Then Lily. Now this homeless rat. The club doesn't have room for weakness. Marcus watched his entire world collapse. Torch was a murderer. Phoenix was a traitor. Lily was in danger. And he was standing in a room full of guns with no idea who to trust anymore. Reaper's voice was broken. How many? How many others are part of this? Phoenix smiled. More than you think. Less than you fear. But enough to make sure Lily dies if you make the wrong choice. So decide, brother. Torch walks free, or your daughter dies. You have 30 seconds. The clock on the wall ticked impossibly loud. 29 seconds. 28. 27. And Marcus realized with horrible certainty that no matter what happened next, someone he loved was going to die. 26 seconds. Marcus's mind raced faster than the clock ticking on the clubhouse wall. Torch's gun pressed cold against his temple, the metal still warm from being drawn. Phoenix's phone streaming what was supposed to be Lily's hospital room in real time. 40 bikers frozen in an impossible standoff, their weapons drawn but useless. And somewhere, supposedly, in that hospital, a mysterious partner standing over his 8-year-old sister with a syringe full of death. 24 seconds. But Marcus had spent 3 months surviving on Chicago's streets. 3 months learning that when powerful people played games with lives and guns and threats, the invisible ones, the forgotten ones, the homeless kids nobody bothered to really see, had advantages nobody anticipated. He was still invisible to them in the ways that mattered. Still underestimated. 22 seconds. Wait, Marcus said, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife through silk. I have something to say. Shut up, kid. Torch started, pressing the gun harder against Marcus's skull. Phoenix, you said you took that photo an hour ago, right? You said your partner is there now, in Lily's room, ready to inject her if we don't let Torch walk? Phoenix's expression flickered, just for a fraction of a second. A micro-expression of uncertainty. That's right. And if you value her life, then you're lying. Marcus's voice grew stronger, steadier, fed by the same desperate clarity that had carried him through 3 months of survival. Because Lily's wearing different pajamas in your photo. The hospital gave her green ones when they admitted her. Standard pediatric issue. Those in your picture are blue. Her unicorn pajamas from home. The ones she was wearing before the fire. The room went absolutely silent. Every biker's eyes shifted to Phoenix's phone, then back to Marcus. Phoenix's smile faltered like a candle flame in wind. He's guessing, Torch said, but his voice had lost its certainty, cracking at the edges. He's stalling. Kid's desperate and making things up. The 4-bag in your photo, Marcus continued, his photographic memory, sharpened by months of noticing every detail to survive, serving him now, says Saline Solution. Clear label. Blue writing. But the news showed footage of Lily's room 20 minutes ago when they did their update. She's on glucose now. Different bag. Yellow label. Different 4-stand entirely. You're using an old photo, probably from when you visited her this afternoon pretending to be the concerned uncle, to fake a hostage situation that doesn't exist. Reaper's hand was already moving to his phone, dialing. Security? This is Jacob Henderson. Check my daughter's room right now. Don't announce yourself. Just look inside and tell me exactly who's in there. 15 seconds of silence that felt like 15 hours. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. Could feel Torch's hand trembling slightly against his head. Could see Phoenix's carefully constructed plan unraveling in real time. Then Reaper's expression hardened into something carved from stone and fury. 2 guards at the door. 2 nurses inside doing vitals. No visitors. No one else has been in that room except authorized medical staff for the last 45 minutes. You lying son of a... Phoenix's mask didn't just crack. It shattered completely. Doesn't matter. We still have guns. We still have leverage. The clubhouse door exploded inward. Not with violence. With sheer, overwhelming numbers. 50 more bikers poured through the entrance. The ones who'd been stationed outside, supposedly on perimeter duty, but actually listening through cracked windows, recording everything on their phones, documenting every word of confession. They'd heard Torch admit to murder. Heard Phoenix confess to decades of betrayal. Heard 2 men they'd called brothers reveal themselves as something monstrous. And they'd made their choice. Phoenix, one of them said, a massive biker named Destroyer with arms like tree trunks and a voice like grinding gravel. You taught us loyalty was everything. Taught us brotherhood was sacred. Guess you forgot to practice what you preached. The guns in the room shifted. Realigned. No longer pointed at each other in confused standoff. Now 40. No, 90. Weapons aimed at 2 traitors surrounded by a brotherhood they'd catastrophically underestimated. Torch's gun wavered at Marcus's head, the barrel shaking now. I'll still kill him. I'll put a bullet in his brain before you can stop me. Marcus dropped. Just let his legs give out completely, using his smaller size and gravity to slip straight down through Torch's grip like water through fingers. The gun discharged. Sound exploding in the enclosed space, deafening, ringing through Marcus's skull, but the bullet went high, punching through acoustic ceiling tiles and embedding in wooden rafters. Then Reaper moved. Marcus had never seen anyone move that fast. His father, because that's what Reaper was, what biology and circumstance had made him. Crossed the distance in 2 explosive strides, disarmed Torch with brutal practiced efficiency learned from decades of violence, and had him face down on the concrete floor in under 3 seconds. The gun skittered across the room, kicked away by another biker. Other club members swarmed Phoenix before he could draw his weapon, pinning him with the kind of coordinated, controlled violence that came from years of brotherhood and training. It was over in less than 10 seconds. Marcus lay on the cold concrete floor, ears ringing from the gunshot, tasting dust and motor oil, watching his father, his actual biological father, kneeling on the back of the man who'd murdered his mother, who'd stolen her life with a poisoned needle and called it mercy. How many others? Reaper's voice was barely human anymore. Something primordial and savage replacing the careful control. How many more traitors in my club? Tell me now, or I start breaking bones. Torch spat blood onto the concrete, mixing with the oil stains. Go to hell. Reaper twisted Torch's arm at an angle that made Marcus wince. The snap was audible. Torch screamed. How? Many. Others. 5. Torch gasped through agony. 5 of us total. Me. Phoenix. 3 others. We had it planned for months. Kill Lily to break you. Take over leadership. Make the club strong again. But the kid. His eyes found Marcus with pure undiluted hatred that made Marcus's skin crawl. That homeless little rat ruined everything. 5 traitors. In a club of 500 members. The math shouldn't have mattered. But somehow it did. 500 minus 5. 495 who'd stayed loyal. Who'd chosen to stand with their president even when it meant turning against brothers they'd ridden with for years. Even when betrayal would have been easier. Subscribe now. You need to see how Brotherhood delivers justice. Reaper stood slowly, leaving Torch zip-tied and bleeding on the floor. He walked to Marcus, who was still sitting where he'd fallen, and for a long moment just looked at him. Really looked. Seeing him perhaps for the first time not as a threat or a stranger or a complication, but as a son. You saved her twice, Reaper said quietly, his voice raw. Once from the fire when you could have run. Once from my own stupidity for trusting the wrong people. You're 14 years old, and you've shown more courage than men 3 times your age. I didn't do anything special, Marcus said, his own voice shaking. I just noticed details. Anyone could have. No, not anyone. You risked your life. Twice. For a girl you barely knew. For people who'd given you nothing but fear and uncertainty. Reaper extended his hand. Get up, son. The word hit Marcus harder than any bullet could have. Son, said out loud, in front of 90 witnesses. With an entire Brotherhood listening and recording and bearing witness. Marcus took his father's hand and stood. 3 days later, Northwestern Memorial Hospital had never seen anything like it. 500 motorcycles filled the parking lot, spilled onto surrounding streets, lined every available space within a half-mile radius. The sound of their engines idling created a constant thunder that made the building's windows vibrate in their frames. News crews had returned in force. CNN, Fox, local Chicago stations, even international media, trying to capture footage of what the internet was already calling the Brotherhood Vigil and the homeless hero's homecoming. The video of Marcus saving Lily had hit 53 million views. His face was everywhere. News articles. Think pieces about homelessness and heroism. GoFundMe accounts started by strangers raising money for his future. The story had captured something America desperately wanted to believe, that courage existed in unexpected places, that the forgotten could become heroes, that family was something you could find even in fire and chaos. Inside Lily's hospital room, Marcus sat beside her bed in the same plastic chair he'd occupied for 3 days straight, leaving only for bathroom breaks and when nurses forced him to eat. She was awake now, healing remarkably well considering she'd been minutes from death. Strong enough to eat solid food and complain loudly about the terrible hospital TV and demand her father bring her tablet so she could watch videos. The DNA test results had come back yesterday morning, delivered in a plain manila envelope that had felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 99.98% probability of paternity. Marcus was officially, scientifically, legally Reaper's son. Lily's half-brother. Part of a family he hadn't known existed for days ago. Tell me the fire story again, Lily said for what felt like the dozenth time that morning. You were there, Lily. You lived it. You know exactly what happened. But I like hearing you tell it. You make it sound less scary. Like an adventure instead of, she hesitated, her 8-year-old mind searching for words to describe trauma. Instead of the nightmare it felt like. So Marcus told it again, edited slightly for her sake, made himself sound braver than he'd felt. Made the choices sound easier than they'd been. Made the fear sound smaller than the suffocating terror that had nearly paralyzed him. Made it a story about courage instead of desperation. Reaper watched from the doorway, arms crossed over his leather vest, but his expression was different now, softer around the edges. present in a way that suggested he was learning, really learning, how to be a father to two children instead of one, how to protect without smothering, how to love without the rough calluses of club life, hardening everything he touched. The hospital door opened. A different old biker, not Phoenix, but one named Hammer with steel gray hair and kind eyes, stepped inside. "Boss, they're ready downstairs." "Everyone's assembled." "Ready for what?" Marcus asked, confused. Reaper's expression shifted to something Marcus couldn't read. Pride mixed with nervousness. "Come with me. Both of you." "Lily, the doctor cleared you for a supervised wheelchair ride. You need to see this too." 10 minutes later, after nurses checked Lily's vitals twice and made Reaper promise to have her back within an hour, Marcus pushed Lily's wheelchair through the hospital corridors, into the elevator, down to the main floor, and out the front entrance. Then he stopped dead, unable to process what he was seeing. 500 bikers stood in perfect military formation. A sea of leather and steel stretching as far as Marcus could see, extending down 3 blocks of Chicago Street that police had closed off specifically for this moment. They'd organized themselves in precise rows, prospects in front, full members behind, officers in the back, with their motorcycles arranged behind them in gleaming chrome lines. Engines rumbled in synchronized thunder, and every single one of them was staring at Marcus. "What is this?" Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible over the rumbling engines. Reaper stepped beside him, placing one hand on Marcus's shoulder. "This is the club acknowledging a debt. You saved my daughter. You exposed traitors who would have destroyed us from within. You proved yourself worthy of respect that most men spend lifetimes earning. Now they want to make it official." "Make what official? We don't normally do this for someone your age. Our bylaws say 16 minimum for prospect status." "But you're not normal, are you?" Reaper's voice carried both pride and something like wonder. "Your family, blood and choice both. And the club voted. Unanimous. 495 votes in favor." He pulled something from his vest. A patch. The Hells Angels insignia stitched onto leather, smaller than the full-member version, but unmistakable. "This is a prospect patch. First step to becoming a member when you're old enough. You wear this, you're under club protection. Forever. No one touches you. No one threatens you. You're one of us." Marcus stared at the patch, at the 500 bikers waiting in the cold, at his father offering him something he'd never had in his entire 14 years of existence: belonging. "I'm just a kid. I'm 14. I don't know anything about motorcycles, or..." "I know. This doesn't make you a full member. That takes years. Earning it. Proving yourself over and over in ways that matter. But it makes you protected. It makes you visible in a way that changes everything. The world tried to erase you, Marcus. Tried to make you invisible until you froze or starved or just gave up. We're saying you matter. That you're seen. That you're valued." Tears burned Marcus's eyes, blurring the crowd of leather-clad men into a smear of black and chrome. 3 months ago he'd been invisible. Frozen. Starving. Erased by a world that didn't care if he lived or died. Sleeping in basements and stealing food and wondering if he'd survive another week. Now 500 people stood in the November cold waiting to tell him he mattered. "Say yes," Lily whispered from her wheelchair, reaching up to grab Marcus's hand. "Say yes so we can be a real family. So you don't have to hide anymore. So you're safe." Marcus took the patch with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The leather was soft, worn, clearly cut from someone else's vest and repurposed for this moment. It felt impossibly heavy for something so small. The 500 bikers erupted. Not with cheers. That would have been too simple. With engines. Every motorcycle roared to life simultaneously, creating a sound like rolling thunder that echoed off hospital buildings and apartment complexes for blocks. Horns honked. People shouted. Emergency room patients wheeled their 4 stands to windows to watch. The media captured everything, broadcasting this moment to millions watching online. Hammer stepped forward carrying a second item, a full prospect vest, size for Marcus's 14-year-old frame, clearly custom-made in the last 3 days. "Welcome to the Brotherhood, kid. Welcome home." Marcus put it on. The leather settled over his shoulders like armor. Like protection. like the weight of family he'd never expected to carry. The patch on the back announced to the world, property of Hell's Angels MC, Chicago chapter. Under Brotherhood protection. Like this if you believe forgotten kids deserve to be found. The celebration lasted 2 hours. Bikers coming up one by one, clasping Marcus's shoulder with hands calloused from decades of riding, welcoming him with gruff voices and surprisingly gentle words, sharing stories of their own second chances, their own rescues from darkness, building a narrative around him that felt too big, too heroic, too impossible to be about a homeless kid who'd just been trying not to freeze to death in a basement. But Marcus let himself believe it. For the first time in 3 months, maybe in his entire life, he let himself feel safe. Food appeared from nowhere. Pizza boxes, sub-sandwiches, hot coffee. The bikers formed a protective circle around Marcus and Lily, creating a bubble of warmth and safety while November wind whipped through Chicago streets. Someone gave Marcus a leather jacket lined with fleece. Someone else handed Lily a stuffed motorcycle with wheels that actually turned. Reaper stood back, watching his children, both of them now, being welcomed into a family that had nothing to do with blood and everything to do with choice. Then Lily tugged Marcus's new vest. "Marcus, look at this." She held her phone, pink case covered in unicorn stickers, showing him a video that was currently going viral. The view count ticked past 60 million as he watched. Someone had compiled footage from the fire, the CPR, the hospital vigil, the vest ceremony, set it to emotional music, made it into a story of redemption and brotherhood that people were sharing across every social media platform. Marcus watched himself jump from that burning window. Watched himself do desperate CPR. Watched himself nearly die and choose to do it anyway. It didn't feel like watching himself. It felt like watching a character in a movie. Someone braver. Someone stronger. But the comments section told a different story. Thousands of messages from people saying he'd inspired them, made them donate to homeless shelters, made them look at the invisible people on their streets differently, made them believe in heroes again. "You're famous," Lily said, scrolling through comments. "Everyone knows your name now. Everyone knows you're a hero." Marcus was about to respond when he saw it, buried in the flood of positive comments. Posted 3 minutes ago from an anonymous account. A single message that made his blood turn to ice water. "Beautiful story. Really touching. 5 traitors caught. Justice served. But they forgot about number 6. See you soon, little brother." Mom and Lily weren't the only ones with targets on their backs. You just became famous. And famous people are easy to find. Sleep tight. The ghost. Marcus's hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped from his fingers. 6 traitors. Not 5. Phoenix and Torch had confessed to 5 total conspirators. 3 others already in custody. But someone else, someone still hidden, still operational, was still out there. Still hunting. And now Marcus's face was everywhere. His name was national news. His location was public knowledge. He'd gone from invisible to the most visible target imaginable. Reaper saw Marcus's expression change, saw the color drain from his face. "What's wrong?" Marcus showed him the comment, hands shaking so badly the screen blurred. The celebration died instantly. Every biker within earshot went silent, reading the threat, processing the implications. The festive atmosphere evaporated like water on hot asphalt. "That account's deleted," Hammer said, checking his own phone frantically. "Posted and vanished. Untraceable. Routed through VPN servers in 6 countries. Whoever this is knows what they're doing." "Then we locked down immediately," Reaper said, his voice snapping into command mode. "Marcus, Lily, you don't leave club protection. Not for school. Not for errands. Not for anything. We find this ghost before." Marcus's phone buzzed in his hand. New message. Same unknown number. "Too late for lockdown. I'm already closer than you think. Much closer. Look up." Marcus looked up slowly, dread pooling in his stomach like poison. In the hospital window 5 floors above them. In the psychiatric ward where they'd taken Phoenix and Torch for evaluation and holding, a figure stood watching. Wearing a white doctor's coat that caught the afternoon light. Wearing a visitor's badge that dangled from a lanyard. watching the celebration below with the kind of smile that promised violence and suffering. The figure was female, petite, dark hair pulled back in a professional bond. Someone who could walk through a hospital without raising suspicion. Someone who'd been there all along, hiding in plain sight. Then the figure waved. Not threatening, almost friendly. The kind of wave you give to family. And disappeared back into the hospital corridor, vanishing like smoke. Move. Reaper shouted, already running. Hammer, take Marcus and Lily to the safe house. Everyone else, with me. We're not letting this one get away. 50 bikers sprinted for the hospital entrance. Others jumped on motorcycles, racing to cover other exits. The coordination was instant, practiced, the kind of tactical response that came from years of riding together. But Marcus knew, felt it in his bones with the same certainty that had kept him alive on the streets, that they wouldn't find her. The ghost was already gone, already planning, already 3 steps ahead. Hammer physically lifted Marcus by his vest, dragging him toward a waiting truck. Come on, kid. We're leaving. Now. Wait. Marcus pulled free, ran to Reaper. Dad. It was the first time he'd said the word. The first time he'd claimed that relationship out loud. Reaper stopped, turned, and Marcus saw tears in his father's eyes. Be careful, Marcus said. Please. I just found you. I can't lose you too. Reaper pulled Marcus into a crushing hug. I'm not going anywhere. I promise. But you need to be safe. Both of you. That's all that matters. Then he was gone, sprinting into the hospital with 40 brothers at his back. 1 week later, the safe house was a compound in rural Indiana, 2 hours from Chicago. 40 acres of farmland surrounded by security fences and cameras. A main house with reinforced doors and bulletproof windows. 24-hour guard rotations. 3 escape routes. Everything the Hells Angels MC had built for exactly this kind of situation. Marcus stood on the front porch, watching November sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. Lily was inside doing homework under Hammer's supervision. Reaper was back in Chicago, coordinating the search for the ghost with federal agents who'd taken over the case. They'd found nothing. No trace. No DNA. No fingerprints. The woman in the hospital had been wearing a stolen doctor's coat and a fake visitor's badge. Security footage showed her walking in 3 hours before the ceremony and walking out 90 seconds after waving at Marcus. She'd vanished into Chicago like she'd never existed. But Marcus knew she was real. Knew she was still out there. Still planning. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. His 4th this week. Enjoying the safe house? Nice sunset, isn't it? Orange and purple have always been my favorite colors. You have your mother's eyes, by the way. I can see why she loved Reaper. Why she thought running would save you. It didn't save her. Won't save you either. But I'm patient. Brotherhood can't protect you forever. Eventually, you'll make a mistake. And I'll be there. The ghost. Marcus deleted the message. Showed it to Hammer, who documented it and forwarded it to the FBI task force. We'll find her, Hammer promised. She'll make a mistake. They always do. But Marcus knew better. The ghost had waited years. Had watched Phoenix and Torch's plan fail. Had stayed hidden while 5 others got caught. She wasn't going to make mistakes. The front door opened. Lily stepped out, wrapped in a blanket, and sat beside Marcus on the porch steps. Are you scared? She asked. Terrified. Me too. But at least we're scared together. At least we're not alone anymore. Marcus put his arm around his sister. Yeah, at least there's that. They sat in silence, watching the sunset fade to twilight, surrounded by brotherhood and protection and the knowledge that somewhere out there, the ghost was watching too. But Marcus had learned something in 3 months on the streets, something in those 4 minutes of fire, something in the moment he'd chosen to jump from that window. You could be afraid and still fight. Could be terrified and still protect the people you loved. Could be hunted and still refuse to hide. The ghost wanted him afraid, wanted him to run again, to become invisible again. But Marcus was done being invisible. He was a brother now, protected by 500, family to 2, named and claimed invisible. And whatever came next, whatever the ghost was planning, Marcus wouldn't face it alone. Behind them, Hammer spoke quietly into his phone. Yeah, boss. They're good. Both kids are safe. No, No new threats tonight. Yeah, I'll tell him. Marcus, your dad says he loves you. Says he'll be here tomorrow morning. Says to get some sleep. Marcus smiled despite everything. Tell him I love him too. Both of them. The words felt strange in his mouth. Love. Family. Home. Concepts that had been abstract 3 months ago. Now they were everything. Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. Will we ever be safe again? Really safe? I don't know, Marcus admitted. But we'll be together. That's something. That's everything, Lily corrected. And maybe she was right. The sunset faded completely. Stars appeared in the Indiana sky, more than Marcus had ever seen in Chicago. Out here, away from city lights, the universe revealed itself in all its overwhelming glory. Marcus's phone buzzed one last time. He almost didn't check it, but something made him look. A message from Reaper. FBI got a hit. Facial recognition from airport. Woman matching description bought ticket to Mexico. Arrested at gate. Might be her. Might finally be over. Coming home tomorrow with good news. Love you, son. Marcus showed Lily. She squeezed his hand. Is it really over? Maybe, Marcus said. But something in his gut, that same survival instinct that had kept him alive, whispered that it wasn't. That the ghost wouldn't be caught that easily. That this was just another move in a game he didn't fully understand. But for tonight, in this moment, with his sister beside him and his father coming home and 500 brothers standing guard, Marcus let himself hope. Let himself believe that broken kids could find families. That homeless boys could become heroes. That even in fire and betrayal and fear, love could grow. That maybe, just maybe, he was finally safe. The stars watched. The Brotherhood guarded. And somewhere in the darkness, the ghost smiled and waited. Because some stories don't end. They just pause between chapters.